And there's a look facing west towards the Yonge and Eglinton neighborhood off in the distance. And this is the intersection of Eglinton and Don Mills Road. And this is the future home of the Science Center LRT station. And that should be opening up sometime next year. And then in about a decade from now, this will be home to the future Science Center Ontario Line station. And I think that'll be located on the northeast corner just over there. And thanks for tuning in. It is Monday, April 4th. The time is around 1:40 p.m. and the temperature right now is around 6 degrees Celsius. And for this one, I'm going to hop on my e-bike and go for a ride along the length of the Ontario line. And that's a new subway line that just started to undergo construction as of March 27th. And there's the e-bike. And there's a look at the southwest corner entrance to the LRT station. All right, so I'll hop on my bike and get going. So this is the Flemingdon Park neighborhood, and I'm about to turn right onto Don Mills Road here. And this will take me south past the Science Center, which is coming up on the right. And then we'll be going by the second station on the Ontario line, and that's the Flemingdon Park Station. And if my understanding is correct, this East York stretch, well, north of O'Connor anyways, is to be above ground. So the subway line will be running on an elevated set of tracks along Don Mills here. I'm not sure exactly how that'll look. That'll be pretty neat to see. And there's the Science Center on the right. So the line will be 15 stops, and I think about 16 kilometers in total. I'm not really sure how long it'll take me to get to the final station, which is at Exhibition Place. That's in Liberty Village. But just here on the right is where the Flemingdon Park Station will be. This is Gateway Boulevard. There's a look into Flemingdon Park. So it's supposed to be located at the northwest corner of Don Mills and Gateway Boulevard. This is Gateway. Although Gateway does loop around, so I think it might actually be just south of here. I just grabbed that info off the Metrolinx site. Metrolinx is the provincial agency building the Ontario line. So I'll correct myself via subtitles if I was wrong, but now that I think about it, I think the station is actually going to be just up here on the right. As this is Gateway again on the left, and Overlea Boulevard on the right. There's Valley Park Middle School. So I'll be turning right here and heading into Thorncliffe Park. That's another East York neighborhood. And I'm about to cross over the Don Valley. Well, this is the West Don River branch. So that Eglinton LRT line has been under construction for over a decade now. And I think we'll see the same case for this line. It doesn't actually have a completion date, as I don't think all the construction contracts are finalized. I've heard it mentioned as early as 2030, but that seems a bit overly optimistic. All right, and now I'm into Thorncliffe Park. And just to the north of here is the Leaside neighborhood. So this is Thorncliffe Park Drive, and if you turn left here, that'll sort of loop you around and back up to Overlea here. There's the East York Town Center on the left. And there's a large Costco coming up on the right. I think it was previously a Coca-Cola bottling plant. And the area just to the north of here is scheduled to be a large maintenance facility and transit yard for the new Ontario line. And what's worth noting is the rolling stock, or the trains, will be different and not compatible with the existing lines, being line 1, 2, and 4. And the budget for the project is around $11 billion. I think $10 billion of which is coming via the federal government. So it is just up here on the right where I think the Thorncliffe Park Station will be. It was noted to be on the north side of Thorncliffe Park and Overlea, so I think it'll be in this plot of land right here on the right. Well,
electric bicycle?
it is.
You ride your bike like manually alive? I'm just curious.
Half and half. This one's kind of big and heavy. It's got the big fat tires, so this one's more of a rely on the motor. The lighter ones, yeah. I have another one that's much lighter,
yeah?
and that one I can only pedal, and it assists, so
Really?
it kind of gives you superhuman strength.
That's a good way to put it.
Yeah, so
no, I'm just always curious when I see people riding. I'm like, because you know, you're like, oh, this will help me along.
depends on the style of the bike, but this is a big heavy one, so.
Nice.
You.
Okay, take care.
You too.
Bye.
There's a friendly, curious lady. Although I did ride on pedal assist out to Science Center Station. Now the Ontario line will be turning left just up here. And it will be crossing the Don River once again. So I'll be turning left here. And this is Millwood Drive. I think they're expecting around 388,000 daily riders on the Ontario line, and something like 28,000 fewer vehicles on the road. And they're really looking at reductions at the key choke points in the Toronto subway network, mainly being Bloor-Yonge Station, Union Station, and Eglinton Station, which will also serve Line 1 and the Crosstown LRT. So this is south on Millwood. In fact, for the longest time, the project was referred to as the Ontario Relief Line, or just the Relief Line, actually. And I think the original vision for it was to have it completed by 2011. There's a pretty fantastic view of the skyline off to the right here. Not sure if the camera's picking that up. And the relief line was originally supposed to start at Danforth Avenue, which is to the south of here, and then run south through Leslieville and turn over and finish at Union Station. And it was actually the current Ford government that scrapped those long delayed plans, and they kind of fast-tracked this new redesign, which I actually think is better. And here is where I think the line is to go inside a tunnel, so it'll be underneath for this next portion. And the next stop will be at Cosburn and Pape. And that will be in the neighborhood known as Pape Village. In fact, I think this street here, Minton, there's a number of people that are seeing their homes expropriated. That's where they have no choice but to move out, as their property will be needed for tunneling. And they're supposed to get fair market value for their property, but often it ends up being a long fought ordeal, and eventually some sort of settlement usually arises. So this is O'Connor Drive. So we'll be heading south down Pape here. And Cosburn Station will be at the northwest corner. One thing I didn't want to get into too much, because there's a whole lot of it online, is all the NIMBY opposition to this line. Toronto, like many major cities in North America, has a rather severe NIMBY problem, I guess you could say. They kind of bring out their pitchforks and fight tooth and nail against anything that could be remotely progressive. In fact, there's a rather egregious example of that, as there's actually groups actively fighting for the removal of the Yonge Street bike lanes, which I don't know how far you have to have your head up your own butt to be fighting bike lanes along a dense corridor in a city such as Toronto, when there are no safe alternatives north and south for cyclists, but here we are. And there's a lot of concerns from people in this area regarding having their properties expropriated. I know a few people in homes around Pape Station that have said their neighbors have received notice of that. And there's an above ground corridor that runs along an existing train line where people are complaining about added air pollution or noise pollution. I don't know if air pollution is one of their remarks. I wouldn't put that past them, and that sort of thing. So here is Cosburn. So it would be on this corner here where the main entrance of the station will appear. So we've had Science Centre, Flemingdon Park, Thorncliffe Park, and now Cosburn. So this would be stop number 4. And the next stop is at Pape Station on the Blue or Danforth line. So yeah, this project is long overdue. There is severe crowding at Bloor-Yonge Station and on Line 1 in general, particularly during rush hour, and that's something I've experienced commuting south from Eglinton Station to the financial district every day for several years. Often I couldn't even get on a train at Eglinton Station. You might have to wait 3 or 4 trains in a row that were all packed. And then the poor people waiting at the stations just south of there, mainly Davisville, also Summerhill and Rosedale, often would have no luck at trying to squeeze on the train. And this has been a problem for decades. Hence the term relief line. This line is to alleviate a lot of that congestion. And current projections have Bloor-Yonge Station seeing a reduction in the amount of people using it by up to 22% during peak hours. So when you think of the tens of thousands of people that the subway line will be serving every day, it's kind of silly to think that anyone could be opposed to it. So here we are riding through Pape Village. And Pape Station sits on line 2 on Danforth Avenue, and that opened in 1966. So that'll be interconnected to the Ontario line. And I did a walk yesterday that went right by where that station will be located. There's Serrano Bakery. Every time I come this way on a live stream, people always point out how good that place is. In fact, if I think the original plans from the early 80s came into fruition, the Eglinton subway line would have been built by now, which instead we're getting the LRT, which is kind of a glorified, partially underground subway network, or subway line. And the Shepherd line would have been built by now, instead of just the short stub we have that starts at Yonge and Shepherd and comes to a rather abrupt end. That was originally supposed to go all the way over to Scarborough Town Centre. So here is Pape Station on the left. I'm actually going to turn left here. There's a reason for that. All right, everyone's playing a big game of chicken here. I'm just going to go south for a block here and turn right on to Danforth. As it's just up here on the right, the formal entrance to the Ontario line portion of Pape Station, but I guess you can connect between the two lines once you're in. Will be built right in this building that has the Home Hardware. So that building will be coming down. And as mentioned, the line will be underground for this portion. And I'm actually going to turn south at Pape here. This area here is the Greektown neighborhood, and line 2 runs east-west along it. But now I'm going south on Pape. So the next stop will be at Gerrard and Carlaw. And that is where the Ontario line re-emerges above ground and runs alongside an existing GO Transit corridor. GO Transit being a suburban commuter rail system. So it's kind of smart that the Ontario line is utilizing an existing rail corridor. That'll save a fortune in tunneling, although as mentioned, it did bring about a lot of NIMBY concerns. But I think additional soundproofing will be added and sound barriers and that sort of thing along the line to alleviate concerns of the neighbors. That is Dingwall Avenue. I love the name of that street. There's an old mansion on the right. That's where they filmed Stephen King's It. Well, not Stephen King, the remake of it, actually. Although they used it for the interior shots, and it's since been extensively transformed, so it's not quite the same as what it was. I'm gonna let this lady turn here. I'm the one that stopped to look at a house. And just up ahead, Pape Street comes to a rather abrupt end, or at least for vehicles it does, and it turns into an elevated crossing. And from there, you get a pretty spectacular view of the skyline. There's a no bicycle sign on that, but what we can do is turn right and cut through this parking lot. There you can see the financial district off in the distance. And a rather sad looking mattress. Coming up is Carlaw, and I'll turn left. And then just south of here will be the intersection of Carlaw and Gerrard. And there's the rail tracks on that overpass. And the Ontario line will be joining up with that. So I think the station will be embedded into that corner over there. So just to the right is the East Chinatown neighborhood. And the Real Jerk is on the right as well. Drake filmed a music video in front of there once. And it's into the Leslieville neighborhood. Oh, there goes a GO train overhead. That was that noise you heard. So this is south on Carlaw Avenue. And here is Dundas Street East. And our next stop will be in Riverside. So the next stop will be right at the border of the Leslieville neighborhood where I am now in South Riverdale. And the stretch of Queen is also known as Riverside, where the stop is. That'll be right where the Jimmy Simpson Park is. There's Colgate Avenue on the right. So we're going to turn right here at Queen Street East. There's the former Reliable Fish and Chips, which people always spoke highly of, but sadly closed recently. And this is Logan Avenue. I think the next stop might be called Riverside, Leslieville. And you can see those rail tracks off in the distance. That's part of that rail corridor we went under earlier. And I think this stop will be located at Queen and Degrassi. Degrassi being famous for the TV show The Kids of Degrassi Street and later Degrassi High. There's Jimmy Simpson Park on the right. So it is right here on the right, just on the other side of this overpass here, where the stop's supposed to be located. I think it's to be right there, actually. Now I need to head south, as I think the next stop is known as East Harbour. Maybe I'll take, I don't know if I can take Salter Street here down to Eastern Avenue. So this is the area known as Riverside. So I'm going to head south down to the future East Harbour Station, which, if I were to guess, would be the least busy station on the Ontario line. Kind of an odd spot for a station, but I think it's really located where it is because the rail corridor in question comes out this way. There's Eastern Avenue, and I'm not sure if bikes are allowed on there. I think I once saw a sign that said no bikes. But this will be the last of the elevated stops, at least until the final stop. So it started off underground, or it started off above ground actually, from the Science Centre through Flemingdon Park and Thorncliffe Park, and then Cosburn Station. It was underground, and then at Carlaw and Gerrard it emerges as an above ground stop. Hey, that's bull. The light didn't trigger. The pedestrian countdown was on, but the signal never changed. There goes a GO train off in the distance. Guess not many people go straight through this intersection here. This is kind of an industrial part of town. I'm almost tempted to just go here. This is kind of ridiculous how long this light is taking. And it is just here. There's a car coming. Where it is said the East Harbour Station will be built. You can see the elevated rail line just off in the distance there. Now the remainder of the line, except for the last stop, will be underground. I have to head up here to Queen Street once more. Hey, we've actually got this light. There's a rarity. I'm going to head back up Broadview to Queen Street East. So I'll be going left here on Queen. And this is taking us over the Don River. And we have just entered downtown Toronto. So I'm heading west along the north side of Queen, and there is where King Street East begins. And the next stop is coming up at Moss Park. And that one, I think, is on the northwest corner of Queen and Sherbourne. Perhaps the intersection downtown with the worst reputation overall. It'll be interesting to see a subway stop going there. Oh, you know what? I missed a stop. There is a stop before Moss Park. So what I should have done was turn down King when I had the chance. Because the next stop is going to be on King Street East in Berkeley. So here is Sackville, which I knew I couldn't turn left there. Good job, dummy. So this is the Corktown neighborhood. Well, I can turn here. What I should have done when I pointed out the start of King Street East was actually gone along King from that point. This is where Eastern Avenue dumps off onto Richmond and Adelaide Streets. Oh, I'm getting a phone call. I'm just gonna quickly see what this is all about. Got my phone mounted on the handlebars here. I might as well clear my nose while we're pulled over. It's one thing when you're riding around in the relative cool conditions, your nose starts to run a bit. So here is King Street East to be specific. And this is Parliament coming up, and I think Berkeley is just after this. This is the Corktown stop. King and Berkeley. I think it'll actually be going in on that corner over there, which makes sense. All right, now it's back up to Queen. You know what I could do? You can just take King over to Sherburn and then shoot north up to Queen and Sherburn for the Moss Park stop. So this is Sherburn Street. Sherburn's got these nice bike lanes. I don't know if the battery on this camera is going to make it. Here is Richmond Street. There's a safe injection clinic just on the left here. This is the intersection of Queen and Sherburn, the somewhat infamous intersection of Queen and Sherburn. And right there, on the northwest corner, is the future home of the Moss Park subway station. And the Moss Park apartments are just off to the right, as is the convenience store, that Kim's Convenience, used for their exterior shots for the TV show. And this next stretch on Queen Street is going to be quite a mess for a very long time. In fact, there's going to be a period of several years where it'll be essentially closed and streetcars won't be able to run through it. That includes the intersection of Queen and Yonge. there's Moss Park itself, just here on the right, and that's where the stop will be. That's the Moss Park Armory just beyond that. So the next several stops are going to be right along Queen Street. I'll try not to miss any more of them and find myself backtracking a bit. This is Jarvis Street. So if Queen ends up anything like Eglinton during the LRT construction, it's going to be quite the disaster here. That one is also being overseen by Metrolinx. So coming up is Queen and Yonge. And I think they're just going to utilize the existing 7 entrances to the subway station here. So here's where the Ontario line will intersect with line 1. There's the entrance to Queen Station. Let's see if I can pull my battery pack out of my backpack and hook it up to my camera here. I was able to get it into my pocket at least. So this stretch here particularly is really going to transform downtown when it's closed down. I don't think there'll be cars or streetcars rolling through here. There's Old City Hall on the right. And this is Bay Street coming up. So just to the south of here is the financial district. So that Queen stop will serve a lot of the crowd coming into work every day. All right, let's see if I can find the charge port on this camera. There we go. I've successfully managed to plug in while recording. City Hall and Nathan Phillips Square are just on the right. And coming up at University in Queen will be the future home of the Osgoode Station stop, which also integrates with the University side of Line 1. Line 1 kind of goes down to Union Station and makes a U-turn and comes back up the University side. So they really ought to call it Line 1A and 1B, since it kind of runs parallel to itself, north and south. So here's University and Queen, where the existing Osgoode Station is, and it's right on this corner here. I think they're going to have to take out part of this fence at Osgoode Hall to put in an entrance to the station. There's the Fourth Center season for the performing arts. And there'll also be an entrance put into that building there on the southwest corner, where there's currently a Rexall drugstore. And there's one more stop along Queen West here. And that is at Spadina. And that is just south of Chinatown. So the streetcars are going to be diverted to, I think, Adelaide Street, just south of here, where there's tracks. There's also streetcar tracks on King Street. I'm not sure exactly how that'll be handled, but this part of Queen is a rather vibrant stretch. So hopefully, at least the pedestrian life won't be too negatively impacted by the construction. I do find it kind of bizarre that Metrolinx is building these giant stations, particularly on the Eglinton LRT line where the underground stations are. But they're also doing it on the Ontario line in places. When I lived in South Korea, they built new subway lines pretty much every year, and often there would be minimal disruption at street level. And they wouldn't have to tear down any buildings. The entrance to a subway stop would simply be a little walkway that appears in the sidewalk, or it would be integrated into an existing building. So here is Spadina and Queen, and this is home to a future stop, I think here in the northeast corner where the CIBC is. That building will be integrated into a stop. And then again on the southwest corner. I'm going to turn south here. So where that TD Canada Trust is, I think, will also be turned into an entrance for the new stop.
God bless you. Yeah, God bless you.
Some fantastic karaoke going on. So this is south down Spadina Avenue, and then I'm going to be turning right. I think there's two more stops to go. One at King and Bathurst. So there's actually going to be two stops on King Street. King and Berkeley, and then it runs up to Queen, and then it dips down to King for King and Bathurst. could have came down Portland Street, or maybe found a quicker route heading south down the King. Oh well, it's just 2 more blocks south of here. So this is King Street West. This area is known for its nightlife. So coming up, there'll be a stop at King and Bathurst. And there's a rather popular bar in the southeast corner called the Banknote. And I think they're going to have to close down or relocate, as they'll be utilizing that building to build one of the entrances. And this is Portland Street. And then the last stop will be in Liberty Village. That will be the Exhibition Place stop. So I'll continue heading down King, and then we'll go south on Atlantic Avenue. And that stop will be right at the southern terminus of Atlantic Avenue. So here is King and Bathurst. And there on the left is the Banknote Bar. And sadly, that place will have to close down or move. And that's where they'll be building one of the station entrances. There's a look back at it. I'm going to head west into Liberty Village. So I think what happens is the subway will actually be running south of here, which is to my left, underground, and it'll be joining up with the rail corridor, and then it'll veer west. So the last stretch will be above ground for the final portion to Exhibition Stadium. Well, just heard a beeping. Okay, I'm not sure why. My camera just started beeping, and I checked, and sure enough, it had stopped recording. Good thing I heard that. So this is Niagara Street, and as I was saying, I think the subway will be heading underground to the south of here, and then meeting up with the rail corridor and heading west over to its final stop at Exhibition Place. And the design of that station is quite amazing. They've got a large canopy planned to go over all the rail tracks. And I think RM Transit talked about that on his channel. He did a video. I'll link to that down below if I remember. And he shows off all the station design renderings, I guess you could say. There's also some links online where you can see that. Maybe I'll put that in the description as well. So here is Strawn Avenue. There's, of course, the streetcar line along King here. There's a new bridge just on the left for pedestrians to cross over the rail tracks. There's that rail corridor on the left cuts right through Liberty Village and kind of disconnects the south half of it from King Street. That's one of the reasons why that bridge was built. But sadly, at last check, the elevators were still not operational. And one advantage of the Ontario line is all the stations will be built accessible, and they'll have those platform doors that kind of protect people from the tracks. And those will be there from day one. I'm just gonna turn left the old-fashioned way here. I meant to turn left there and I saw some traffic behind me. Okay, heading south on Atlantic Avenue, take two. I have no idea what happened, but I finished recording the video and then I checked and my camera wasn't recording, so I had to go back and re-watch the last footage to see where it stopped recording, and it looks like it cut out just as I turned south on Atlantic Avenue, and I have no idea why my camera doesn't want to record. It might be the memory card, it might be the camera. Either way, this is south on Atlantic Avenue through Liberty Village, and I'm heading towards the final stop on the Ontario line. And it's a bit of a shame because on what I thought was the end of the video, a couple of GO trains rolled by. And it looked kind of neat. Oh well, this is the exhibition stop straight ahead here, and I'll be rolling down onto the platform. And this is where you would, I guess, catch westbound trains. But here we go. So
please remember that face coverings are mandatory on GO Transit at all times.
this will be covered by a canopy, and there'll be the Ontario Line subway tracks added as well. So just to the south of here is Exhibition Place. Let me get the camera off. All right, it's still recording. So this would be the 15th or first stop, depending on how you count it, on the Ontario Line. And there's also a tunnel here where you can cross and head underneath to the other side where Exhibition Place is, and that's also where BMO Field is, where the Toronto FC and Toronto Argonauts play. And you could catch a couple of streetcars over there, the Bathurst and Harbourfront streetcars, as well as some buses. And you get a pretty neat look towards the CN Tower. All right, let me know your thoughts and comments down below. If you wish to support the channel, there are links to my Patreon and YouTube channel membership in the description, and I have an Instagram account at Johnny Strides. All right, thanks for watching. Stay warm, stay safe, and I will catch you on the next one.